Okay, here we go. Today, it's going to be a spooky one. So spooky, in fact, I added candles because, I don't know, just because I thought it would be a fun thing to do. First of all, I got to fire up the old ghost strawberry bango today. That's what's going to give us what we need to get through the day. Granted, it's nighttime and there's a thunderstorm. It kind of screwed up my day. But hey, here we are, getting it going. Today, we're going to talk about haunted items. You know why? Because that shit's real. That's why. It's real. I don't care who says that it's not. I'm sorry. I got some stories, or at least one solid story. You know, I've taken stuff home with me, you know, whether it been intended or not, you know, whether that been a spirit attachment or some other weird thing that I've taken with me from some of the places I've gone. But this particular time, I brought home something that honestly disrupted my entire family. And it was crazy. But for those of you who don't know really what a haunted item is, you know, most people, like, you know, they think of haunted items, they're like, oh, it's just this thing. But I'm talking about stuff that causes true issues to people in their family and people that are associated and around them. The most famous of all of these would probably be the Annabelle doll. Now, it seems harmless, right? But this particular doll, right? It's the foundation of every Conjuring movie, if you've ever seen that. You know, this is exactly what that would be, you know? And 100% like, you know, they made movies about it. Matter of fact, they made so many things about it that, you know, they actually, you know, made an entire movie called Annabelle about this doll. You know, that's not creepy, is it? No. I mean, it's that creepy. It's that kind of stuff. Now, I mean, granted, television and movies are kind of taking it everywhere. I mean, we could even talk about Christine, right? Am I right? Like Christine, classic, right? It's a car that's possessed. It tries to kill people. You know, Christine. Those are worth checking out if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this stuff is absolutely real. So, you know, as I was thinking about what happened to me, I started digging around the internet trying to figure out and trying to look for other people that have kind of had these types of experiences. And they're actually kind of harder to find than I thought, actually. And probably because a lot of people don't like talking about them. You know, like, I don't like talking about it. I mean, I'm going to talk about it, but I mean, you know, nobody really wants to talk about it. I mean, because they're going to think you're effing crazy. That's why. That's why people don't talk about it. They don't talk about it at all. They don't talk about it at all. And it makes sense to me why they don't, you know, because it's kind of insane. But I did. I started digging through the internet, trying to find different stories of people, and then I started listening to a bunch of podcasts. A bunch of people have, you know, of course, you know, found stories and they've done podcasts on them and things like that, and they're all second hand. They've been written by somebody, and it's either been like a story that happened to them or a story that happened to somebody they know. So I guess it'd be third hands, right? It's your third hand. But you know, I found a couple that I thought were kind of cool. This particular one here, right? This is on Reddit. This is about a girl that her grandfather's ex-girlfriend was a witch, and you know, apparently a bunch of other stuff came down. Anyway, they died. The witch had given his granddaughter a purse, and with this purse, all of this bad luck started happening with him, right? So she eventually got rid of the purse, and it, you know, it went away, right? And I was like, huh, all right, cool. You know, and then I started looking into more, you know, haunted dolls. Like, you know, there's a couple of people that I've worked with in the past. They deal with a lot of items, you know, that are in this realm. You know, they've dealt with the Annabelle doll and all of that type of stuff. You know, but so then I started looking for people that have, you know, they're on the hunt for them, you know. And this particular one here, this is the Norman doll. Norman doll was purchased on the internet, And this doll, well, it, it's scary. I mean, look at it. I don't know. People that collect dolls, I don't know. I know a couple people that collect dolls. Not naming any names, but she's got a scary room. It's scary. You know, this is something that I don't know. It's interesting. They talk about when they opened up the package, that doll, like, chills came through the room, got really scary. It freaks you out. It's beyond a feeling. Well beyond a feeling. Well beyond this particular one right here. Like, this is why people probably don't talk about it. This particular one. This is about an Afghan. This is about an Afghan that was purchased at a yard sale, and this woman had it in the spare bedroom. This person that was staying there also had a rabbit. They started putting the rabbit in the cage. Rabbit, was like doing whatever, and at night they thought they were hearing all these people or things kind of messing around the room. Well, the person that was sleeping continued to wake up and saw that, they thought it was a rabbit doing rabbit things, whatever rabbits do. I don't own a rabbit, but I imagine it's kind of like a cat. At certain times they do cat things, and I'm sure that the rabbits do rabbit things. Well, there was no rabbit doing any rabbit things. The rabbit was apparently just sleeping inside of its cage, and there was just nothing but mayhem happening in the room all around, which I think is, I don't know, I think it's crazy, but there's more and more and more stories. There's one particular one. Let's see here. Oh, these are that, and don't forget that one. There's one that I had. This guy had talked about buying a Oddfellows. Well, clearly messing this one up. Anyway, this particular guy was talking about, he had bought a bunch of Oddfellows items, and one of them was, familiar with the Oddfellows. They're an organization that kind of believes that, I'm going to get this wrong, so don't quote me on it, but more or less the Oddfellows would believe that they would live on, forever in a certain realm, or their piece of them would be on. So a lot of the buildings that were like part of the Oddfellows or what is it? Not a foundation or federation, group, club, right? They would always be like, they're known for putting people's bones in their walls, and those types of things. As a matter of fact, there is a place that you can go, and I believe it's in Ohio. They have it's a full glass case skull, and it's it's now a winery, but they have an Oddfellows room, and it has all their old garbs and all this other stuff. Anyway, this guy had bought it, and all this weird stuff started happening, and it's a really cool looking jacket, really cool looking jacket, but freaky, right? So the reason I say that this is so real, and the reason I am so adamant about it, is because I think it was about 4 years ago. No, probably more than that. Maybe 5, maybe even 6. I don't know. I'd have to ask. I have to really think about it. I think it was about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was doing a scout for a television show, and it was in Pennsylvania, and it was at a insane asylum that is no longer, I believe it's torn down now. I think it's made into condos. But when I was there, we were walking through all this different stuff. We're looking at all the different places that we're, just to figure out the logistics of it, because it's such a massive place, and trying to understand like how we're going to run power, and because we need cameras, we need all this other stuff, and where people are going to be, and we're going to have people investigating and doing all this other stuff. So I'm walking everywhere trying to figure out kind of how this whole thing's going to go. And the guy that's taking me around is like, hey, he's like, you want to take home a souvenir? And I was like, oh. I was like, that'd be kind of cool. I was like, sure. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, come with me. So we go down into this laundry room. And inside this laundry room is a box. You go underneath these stairs, he pulls out this box. Inside this box it's just full of sheets, right? And it's stamped on the sheet, the insane asylum name on it. And I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Like, thanks, like, I don't know what you're supposed to, it's a sheet, right? It's just a white sheet with the stamp on it. That's all it is. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. So I bring it home. And I'm like, don't think anything of it. Go home. Sheets in my garage. And I had one of those garages where your car parked underneath it was a single car garage, car parked underneath it, and I had a little bit of a workspace where I had kept my motorcycle and stuff. And I had that sheet for a really long time, probably, I don't know, maybe a month or so. And during that time, I never really thought about it. I was gone a lot. And my daughter started talking to something, right? And she would, tell me that, things would happen to her at night and whatever. So much so that she started sleeping with a mask on. And because, she was like, well, I didn't want to see this person, right? So I didn't really think too much of it. We're just like, oh, kids are kids, whatever, So we just kept going about our business. Then one day I'm home and I'm making pancakes, and I had a cat door that went downstairs into the basement, and my daughter would go and feed the cat in the morning, and then, she'd come back up, and that was just her normal morning thing, right? We'd let the cat out of the basement, because it does cat things, just like that rabbit does rabbit things. And so the cat had the run of the basement at night. So she comes running upstairs, and then she gets to the top of the stairs, and she's got the cat underneath her arm, and she opens up the cat door and looks down the stairs. And she's like holding the cat, and she's like, is he still down there? And she's talking to the cat. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? She's like, who's down there? She's like, the guy just pacing. The guy's just pacing downstairs in the basement. I go, what? She goes, yeah, it's just pacing back and forth down in the basement. And I go, what? And she goes, there's a person down in the basement just walking back and forth. And I go, oh, okay. So I'm grabbing a knife, I'm like thinking like, what the F is going on? And I open the door, I walk downstairs, and there's nothing there. And she's like, oh, well, he's gone now, like whatever. And she was just like, phew, like, oh, it's no big deal. As if she saw him every day, right? So you see where I'm going with this, right? And so I'm kind of like, okay, that's weird. A little weird. And stuff continued to happen. This particular sheet was still inside my garage, which is down technically in the basement. And I started using it. I was like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything with the sheet. Again, still not putting the two together at all. So I started using this sheet as covering up my motorcycle. I'm like, oh, my motorcycle's getting super dirty. So I use it as a motorcycle cover. And it's there. And then I leave, get another job. I'm gone for, 4 weeks at a time-ish, roughly, on this particular job. And as I'm gone, tons of weird stuff starts happening, to the point of where audible voices are being heard, not only by people in my family, like multiple at the same time, but it continues to escalate, and just weird things started happening. There was lights in the hallway that started going on. There were noises, people walking up and down the steps. Like, it was just nuts. And it got so weird to the point of where I was like, I had to call in some favors of friends, people that I've worked with in the past, and said, hey, picked up this thing. Don't know what's up with it. What do I do? So the recommendation that I was given was, why don't you just take it out of the house? Don't tell anybody, and put it somewhere, and then see what happens. So the next time, so what I did is I went and grabbed that sheet, because I just kind of was like, it all kind of dawned on me. I was like, oh, wait, this is the last thing I brought into the house from the last, kind of thing I was doing. And I'll start with that, right? It's just like a system elimination. It's either that or I brought some home and I have to go see somebody to get cleansed. It's like a colon cleanse, except of the spiritual kind. And I don't tell anybody. Everybody's gone for the day. My daughter's at school. And so I take that sheet and I put it into a big, like, triple lock it in Ziplocs. And I, push it all real tight, fold it up all tight. And then I go into the backyard, I dig a hole, and I put it inside the backyard in the corner next to like in the corner of the fence, like 2 fence posts, like way back in the corner. And I'm like, well, let's just see what happens. So I leave. I'm gone for like 3 weeks. Come back. And then I'm just like, wondering what's going on. And I was like, hey, is anything weird happened? Like, kind of like dropping subtle hints, like anything you should tell me, anything, you seeing stuff at night, there are noises. And they're both like, no, actually, there hasn't been anything. It's actually been really quiet. And I was like, excuse me now. So I'm like, no effing way. So I took that cheat and I was like, well, then I told them at that point, I said, hey, well, I took that, what I thought might probably be the problem, and I put it in the backyard and it's buried back there now. And of course they were like, we got to get rid of that thing. And I was like, oh, I can't get rid of it. I mean, that's a rare item, right? You don't really want to get rid of that, but you gotta at some point, right? Family first type deal. And so made some phone calls and gave it to another person. And that particular person, after I found out that I had given it to them, I was like, just keep me in the loop. Tell me what happens. Well, something interesting started to happen over there too. Now that thing's encased somewhere and I'm not exactly sure where, but all I know is that it also went haywire wherever it ended up going. So this is going to be short, but all I can say is anything that you pick up anywhere, and I'm sorry, like I know people say that nothing can attach to objects or, any of that. There's a lot of naysayers out there that actually say that that's impossible. I'm sorry. For me, there's no way that is absolutely true, because I've firsthand had it happen to me in my own home with things that I thought were completely harmless. Granted, it was from an insane asylum thing that's extremely haunted. But I mean, outside of that, all of the stories that people say that like, oh, this weird thing keeps showing up, or people say, oh, I've gotten rid of this doll, and then all of a sudden the doll shows up again and you've gotten rid of it years ago. Well, guess what? That probably is real. So if stuff starts happening and you went to a garage sale and you're like, man, I got a great deal on this 1920s lamp. And all of a sudden weird stuff starts happening and it didn't happen before you got that lamp. I'm just saying that it might be the lamp. So do kind of what I did. You don't necessarily have to bury it, but separate it, test it, because there is, man, I don't know. There is some stuff that we don't understand, and it's stuff that I don't understand, and stuff that makes people, seem sometimes a little, out there. But just be careful, be mindful, and just know that stuff that you think isn't real, I'm telling you, it happens, and it is real. Like, there is real stuff that happens when people bring objects that have some sort of attachment to it. So that's all I have to say for today. Thunderstorm passed. Only a quarter of the way through this drink, but you guys have a great night and happy garage sailing. That's what I'm talking about.